Welcome to the Computer Literacy Center's online instructional video about relative and absolute cell references in Google Sheets. Using relative and absolute cell references will help with creating functions and performing more advanced calculations in your workbooks. Referencing cells in Sheets is one of the basic features, but by utilizing special notations we can tell Sheets exactly what cell we want it to reference. We'll also introduce some more formatting techniques, useful to make the spreadsheet easier to understand. My name is Parker London, and I'll be guiding you through this tutorial. In this video, we'll add and rename sheets to organize our workbook, use relative and absolute cell references to perform more advanced calculations, and then apply conditional formatting to increase the readability of our sheets. If you'd like to follow along and have completed the Enhancing Workbooks module, go ahead and open the file we created in that module. If you'd like to follow along and haven't completed the Enhancing Workbooks module, use the start file bundled with this module. Remember, save it under your own name. Adding a sheet can be useful if you want to use the same themes or styles across multiple budgets, or if you'd like to create different spreadsheets that will stay bundled together. To add a new sheet, we have a couple of options. Look down to the bottom left of the screen. Here we can see our current sheets. We can see the chart we created in a previous module, our current sheet, and to the left, this plus symbol. If we were to click on this, Sheets would create a new sheet. We'll use a different method to insert a sheet. First, go to the Insert tab. In the drop-down menu, click the New Sheet option. From here, we need to rename our current sheet and our new sheet. To do this, right-click on the sheet you'd like to rename and click Rename. You can then type whatever name you'd like. I'll name my new sheet University Costs and the second sheet Budget. We now have all of the sheets we need, but they're in the wrong order. To rearrange the sheets, click and drag on the sheet name to move it where you need it. I'll order my sheets Budget, Income, and University Costs. Relative cell references are references that can change. For example, if you're using the fill handle, the reference cells will move their position relative to their initial reference. If you wrote a function that said equals A2 plus B2 and then used the fill handle to drag the column down 2 cells, the formula in the final cell would read equals A4 plus B4. This can be useful when you want to perform the same calculation for many cells that are all in the same rows or columns. As well, relative cell references are versatile and can be used across sheets. To get started with using this, head over to the University Costs sheet and recreate this table. From here, we want to fill in some of the values we already wrote down in our budgeting sheet. Instead of researching the fees again or typing them in manually, we can tell Sheets to copy the data over for us. Start by selecting the cell you want to copy the data to. For example, this will be cell B4. Insert an equal sign to tell Sheets that we want it to find something for us. Then navigate to the sheet we want to copy our data from and select the cell we need, cell N18 on the budget sheet. Once it's selected, press Enter and Sheets will copy the data for us. Since our fees are right below our tuition on both tables, we can use the fill handle to copy the total amount of fees we'll need to pay. As you can see, the cell containing our fees now references cell N19 on the budget sheet, the cell right below our tuition. These cell references also work with functions. We'll use them to combine our housing and meals, as well as books and supplies. First, select cell B6 and type in an equal sign. Then navigate to the budget sheet and select our housing total, cell N10. After that, type in a plus sign and select our meals total, cell N21. Press Enter and you can see that Sheets added both totals and placed the result in cell B6. Repeat the process for books and supplies using the correct cells. To find the estimated total cost of attending Weber State for 4 years, we'll be using an absolute cell reference. We first have to make sure that our average annual percentage increase value is formatted in percentage mode. If it isn't, select cell F10 on the sheet University Costs and go to the Format tab. Hover over Number, then select %. From here, we can start writing a function. Select cell C4 and type an equal sign. To find a 4.2% increase in cost, we'll first have to find what 4.2% of the previous year is, and then add it to the previous year's cost. Start by selecting cell B4 and then type a plus sign. This is our previous year's cost. We need to find 4.2% of it and then add it again to our previous year's cost. So select cell B4 and type the symbol for multiplication, the asterisk. Next, we want to reference the percentage, but instead of using a relative cell reference, we'll use an absolute cell reference. Absolute cell references won't change in relation to where you're operating a function, unlike relative references. The notation for this is a $sign in front of the column and another one in front of the row in the cell reference. Sheets uses what's in that cell and then doesn't change it. Start by selecting cell C4 and typing in a $sign, then the column you want to reference. In our case, column F. Then type in another $sign and the row we want to reference. In our case, row 10. There's also a keyboard shortcut if you'd prefer that route. Once the cell you would like to absolute reference is selected, press the F4 key on Windows or Function and F4 on Mac to tell Sheets that you'd like to use an absolute cell reference. Then hit Enter, and Sheets will calculate the result. We can then use the fill handle to copy this function for the 2018 to 2019 school year. As you can see in cell C7, Sheets is still referencing column B for source material, but it's multiplying it by cell F10. Now select cells C4 through C7 and copy them, using the fill handle, to column E. Looking at cell E4, we can see that it is now referencing column D for source material, but still multiplying it by cell F10. This technique is useful if you need to multiply large amounts of data by the same cell and want to use the fill handle. To continue, we need to add some rows above the average for U.S. public four-year institutions to insert information for 2 other universities. To do that, select cell A9, then click on the Insert tab and select Row Above. Repeat this until there is enough space for the other school's information. Now, research and fill in their information using the same layout as Weber states. Also, have Sheets calculate the total cost for each item as well as each year and a final total for attending 4 years at each university, including the annual percentage increase. Then, format each number to represent currency and use appropriate cell styles to make your table look more professional. Since I've already shown you the process, I'll jump to the finished product. Now that we have our tables looking professional, let's start by doing some analysis. Start by copying the names of your 3 universities to the area a couple of cells below the average annual percentage increase cell. I'll use cells A30 through A32. Then, copy the corresponding totals for the 2017 to 2018 year into cells C30 through C32. From here, we can find the percentage difference for the average U.S. public four-year institution. Start by selecting cell D30 and typing an equal sign. Then type a set of parentheses, a minus sign, and then the number 1. Move the cursor inside the parentheses and select cell C30. Then type a / to divide, and finally an absolute cell reference of F26. Press Enter, and Sheets will calculate what % difference your university's tuition is compared to the average. Use the fill handle to calculate the percentage difference for all of your universities, then format these into percentage number format. If we had a larger set of data, it would be difficult and time-consuming to go through each entry and check if it met certain requirements. That's where conditional formatting shines. Let's say that we were given a $60,000 scholarship to wherever we choose, and we want to know which universities are available to us. To find this, we need to see which universities cost more than our scholarship. First, select all of the cells we want to compare, in this case cells C30 through C32. Then, in the Format tab, select the Conditional Formatting option. A window will show up on the right side of the screen. Under Apply to Range, we can check that the correct cells are selected. Next, select the Greater Than option within the Format Cells If section. From here, we can type in a number or use a formula, and below that decide how we want the cells to be formatted. For us, we'll type in 30,000, click on the paint bucket, then select one of the red options, and then click Done. Sheets has highlighted the cell holding Oxford's total, telling us that with just our scholarship we can't afford it. This can be useful when faced with a large table where going cell by cell isn't practical. Sheets isn't just a simple spreadsheet creator. Today we added, moved, and renamed Sheets, which is helpful if you have multiple spreadsheets in the same document. We used relative and absolute cell references to complete calculations, letting Sheets do the hard work for us. Finally, we introduced conditional formatting, an easy way to make parts of your data stand out. Using the tools we discussed in this video can help you unlock more of Sheets' potential and create professional-looking documents. For more information about Google Sheets and other computer literacy topics, visit our website at weber.edu/clc.